Hello and welcome to a Starcraft 2 commentary video with Gumjabar. Today we are looking at the Terran 111 all-in. And I thought this was pretty appropriate after GSL last night. There's a few potential spoilers, so if you haven't watched it yet, I don't know, mute for the next minute or so. But basically, every Terran decided to just go for the Marine Tank Banshee all-in against Protoss, and it worked every single time except for one time where Thorzane botched it. And this is just a really strong build right now. A lot of people are even saying it's imbalanced. I don't know if I agree with that, but it's a very difficult build to hold off. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at two games in which I hold it off, and we're going to look at my defense. What you can do is also look back at my video in which Huck, Team Liquid's Huck, holds off this build pretty convincingly, and this is the same method that he's using. So this first game is going to be between myself and the Axial, the Terran. These are Diamond players, and funny enough, I guess, today when I logged onto the ladder after the GSL last night, I got both of these games that I will show you today, both of them in a row, where Terrans do this build. So this seems to be pretty popular after the GSL. So I feel like maybe a lot of you will be having problems with this build and you want to take a look at how to stop it. There are a lot of ways to stop it, some of them much harder than others. I'd say that the old method, like the classic method, was after doing a fast robo on one base, you know, a 2-gate robo build that I've been demonstrating recently, and you spot something like this with tanks and starport, that you just stay one base and tech to Colossus. And this can work. My issue with it is, A, Terran can set up tanks inside your natural and sort of contain you while he expands faster, which leaves you in a pretty bad spot. B, going Colossus on one base leaves you with very little gas to spend on Stalkers. And you need Stalkers to deal with those Banshees, and you know, Banshees are just really, really strong. And if he scouts you going Colossus on one base, he can just make like 2 or 3 Vikings in addition to the rest of his army, and the Colossus become a lot worse. So, you know, this is pretty difficult doing that method. So what I like to do, and what Liquid Huck was doing, is to 1-gate expand, which seems counterintuitive, but it actually works. And just a quick note, my scouting probe saw a couple of Marines and that was it, and I didn't get to see much else. So that's the information I'm working on right now. So what we're going to do is a 1-gate expand, and after the expo we put down 2 additional gates in our second gas pretty quickly. It's not a very complicated build, and at this point we're going to put down our robo also pretty fast. So I'm going to scout with this Stalker. You always want to do this when you don't see any fast Marauders. Now we're going to quick note that this Terran player isn't quite doing the build perfectly. He doesn't have a reactor on this barracks, for example. We'll look at another game after this in which the build is a little better executed from Terran, but you know, this is what I have to work with. So if you want a much better example of a game, then definitely check out that Liquid Huck game on my channel. And Terran is going for Siege. One thing you have to realize when you scout this build is Terran will almost never get Cloak for his Banshees. He could, so you do need the Robo Bay for Observer pretty quickly, but typically if they get Cloak, it'll really hurt their push, it'll slow it down. If they want to still do the push at about 9 or 10 minutes, then they can't have Siege and Cloak at the same time. So I'm going to run up here and lose the Stalker, unfortunately, but I got the information, I got the tank, in my line of sight. Now, Terran will start harassing with these Banshees. And these are actually pretty late Banshees, but that's going to be his goal. So I do go for the Observer first. With this build, our goal is, with the 1-gate expand, his all-in is going to hit at about 9 or 10 minutes, which is long enough for our 1-gate expand to pay for itself and to boost our economy. As we can see, we already have a better economy, but it's going to take a couple of minutes for this to pay for itself in comparison to Terran's 1 base. So, Terran's just making a Raven. This is a variation of this push where you make a Banshee and then a Raven and then a second Banshee. And it's important to not let the Banshee do any damage. If it gets into your base and kills like 10 probes, you're actually in a much worse spot. So if you spot that Terran is teching like this, you should just prepare for the Banshees blindly. Just put 2 Stalkers in each mineral line. I'm putting some sentries in this one. But yeah, typically, as this Terran has done, if they get there with the Banshee and they see that you're defended, they're not going to bother harassing anymore. He's just going to repair this guy. So, that's something else you can keep in mind. So if we look at the income, I'm clearly ahead, and I've got about 38 workers. What I want to do, and I also have a probe here to make sure I know the moment he pushes out, because this Raven has killed my Observer. What I want to be doing here is I've got 4 gateways and an Immortal, and I'm just making 4 gateways in a Robo. I'm making Immortals out of this Robo Bay. I'm making pretty much all Zealots from the gateways, and I have a couple of sentries. This is the unit mix that I want, and I don't need these gas here because I can't really utilize it. But okay, well, I'm getting it since it's the 10-minute mark. It's pretty late. Anyway, we're going to ignore that. What I'm doing is I'm getting tons of Zealots, a couple of sentries, and a couple of Stalkers because I have to deal with this harass. And notice, my probe was here. I spotted when he moved out, and I want to move out to meet him in the center of the map. I want him to siege up as far away from my base as possible. And he's still going here, making stuff. And he's bringing some SCVs. This is pretty darn all in. Right, he's going to go to the tower first. I don't know about that choice. And I have to go out here and meet this army. Notice, I've got lots of Zealots, about 4 sentries, 2 Immortals, and only about 2 Stalkers. You do not want a lot of Stalkers when you engage this at first. It might seem a bit odd. He's got Banshees, he's got Marines, don't you need Stalkers? And the answer is, well, no. I mean, in a straight-up fight, the Stalkers are just terrible against this giant ball. What you want is Zealots with Guardian Shield, and you want the Immortals target-firing the tanks. So we're going to see that in action right here. Here comes the engagement. I want to attack before he sieges. I'm going to run in with the Zealots. Now he wants to try and micro away from these Zealots. And you actually want to try and force field behind the Marines. I didn't do a great job there, but it worked. And I'm going to try and get these tanks. The Immortal didn't quite get it, but it's not really a big deal. My Zealot reinforcements are taking care of it. And notice, I didn't really deal with the Banshees. He had a PDD, he had 2 Banshees, which is pretty standard, and the Stalkers just sort of didn't do much, and that's fine. I don't care. I killed the Marines and the tanks, which are the most important part of this army. These Banshees aren't going to be able to do any damage, and now, I just sort of run away, warp in some Stalkers, and I'm totally safe. A bunch of Stalkers is not going to die to this tiny little army here. And at this point, since I've held off the all-in, we're even in supply, but check out the income. I am quite far ahead in income. I also cut probes. That's an important point. I cut probes at about You know, I think you should cut probes at about 35-ish. I built a few extra. But, you know, when you see him moving out, just don't make probes. Stop making probes. And now Terran's going to siege up a little bit here. It's only one tank, so I'm not that concerned about it. I can just go kill this. So here we go. Gonna just engage this. I was target firing the tank, but I don't actually need to at this point. I want to focus fire the Banshees because I have so many Stalkers, and it's only one tank. So I just kill everything. Look at Terran's base. He just doesn't have any follow-up at all. Meanwhile, my follow-up is getting these gas, getting charge, and very soon I'm going to be getting my Twilight Council for Archons. And I'm going to go charge a lot Archon against this, if he lets me. That's a pretty convincing way to stop the 2-base variation of this build. Charge a lot Archon or charge a lot Colossus, either one. I prefer Archons. And, you know, he is expanding. Of course, it's a lot later than mine. I could actually take my third right now if I wanted to. I see everything that's happening here. So once I have charge, all of his tank splash will hit his own Marines. The Archons will tank a ton of damage and do splash and be able to deal with Banshees very well. And he just can't deal with that if he stays on this unit composition. So here come more SCVs. He's going to try it one last time. Charge is almost done. I don't even need charge to deal with this. I mean, this is about the same size as the first attack, and I have about the same number of units. So it's not really a big deal. Once again, I'm going to try and meet him in the open field before he can siege up. And I'm going to try and focus fire tanks with the Immortal, force field behind the Marines, and everything is an easy cleanup. GG. So, pretty easy defense when you can catch him before he sieges on the way to your base. You make all these Zealots and a couple of Immortals, not many Stalkers in the initial battle. You only reinforce with the Stalkers after the battle. And of course, you want to one-gate fast expand so that you get the economy that you can you can utilize it. If you try and stay one base, you could hold it off, but you also might get contained pretty hard, and if he makes bunkers, Colossus aren't going to do that well, and it's kind of tough. So this is just one of the many methods you can do to stop this, and we're going to look at one. And welcome back to the second game. This is going to be facing basically the same build, and this was, I mean, these two games I'm showing were consecutive games I played. Like, the first games I played on ladder today were these two games, and I'm like, oh yeah, of course Terrans are all-inning after GSL. You know, Thorzane did it against every Protoss, and even Yoda did it against Tassadar like 3 times, so, I mean, it's a good build. That's what I'm saying. And Protoss needs to know the exact right kind of thing to hold it off with. So, once again, my plan is to one-gate expand. I actually try a variation on that in this game, so let's go through it a little bit. Speeding up this part. Gateway. Right on ×2. Terran's walling in. This is another occasional indicator of a 1-1-1. And of course the second gas is very fast. Now I get very unlucky and scout him last, but I'm going to spot it anyway. So, yeah, if they wall in, typically it's because they don't want you to see a tech, and it's because they're doing a one-base play, because a wall-in, if you do an all-in, is pretty difficult to deal with. If you do like a Void Ray all-in right here, this wall-in becomes a bit of a liability because you can charge up on it. I do manage to kill the SCV before he sees anything. Pretty nice. And I'm doing this build where I chrono boost 2 Zealots and a Stalker, and then do a one-gate and yeah, then do a 1 gate fast expand. You can find more details on this build back in the archives of my YouTube channel, so definitely look at that. It's a 1 gate pressure fast expand build, and unfortunately, the pressure doesn't work if they wall in, and this is the first time I'm seeing into his base. I see the wall in. I actually should have run in here. I didn't notice that was down. And at this point, once the stalker gets across the map, I would run in here and try and attack. Notice he only has a single freaking Marine. But he walled in, so that's kind of tough. Maybe I should have poked anyway, but it's not a big deal. And he's getting the tech lab and the starport. Meanwhile, I am expanding. Around the 5-minute mark is when your fast expand wants to go down. I'm getting a robo bay pretty fast, as is standard. Now, what did I see to make me know that he was doing this build? Basically, the reactor, the wall-in, the bunker. If you're going for 2 racks, which is barracks, reactor first, and then barracks with tech lab, you don't need this bunker. The bunker is just silly. That's a pressure build. I mean, Protoss needs to defend against that. So the fact that he has a bunker clues me in that he's actually teching, and that this reactor means he's making mostly Marines, and his gas will be spent on other things. And I did spot this gas geyser, so basically I can just sort of conclude that he's doing this sort of tech build. And I have to go for a fast observer. I want to see what he's doing, and in case he gets cloak, which is not that common anymore, but in case he does, I have to be able to deal with that. So the expand is up. I've got stalkers in my mineral lines preparing for Banshee harass. 2 stalkers beats 1 Banshee, so you want about 2 stalkers in each mineral line. He's getting siege mode and tanks. Typically, Terrans will get tanks first and then siege mode a little later, because you don't need siege mode until you actually attack, so you don't need to rush for it. I get in here, I spot all this. You can see that cloak is not being researched, but siege is, just based on the tech lab animation, so that's something you should look for. Terran is moving out of his base at the 8-minute mark. This is actually quite fast. He only has a single Banshee so far, and 2 tanks. I think his tanks are getting stuck a little bit, and this Terran is not getting a Raven. So back at my base, I've got my 4 gateways. I've got my robo, just like I did last time. You don't need more than 4 stalkers, because I need 2 per mineral line to defend Banshees. But after 4, I definitely want to stop. I get the zealots. I'm making lots of zealots. I'm trying to watch his push. Now, his push actually came pretty early. A lot of Terrans won't leave their base until 9 minutes. So he's kind of rushing for it. I'm getting my Immortal out pretty fast. I've cut probes completely. And look at my income advantage right now. I can support these 4 gateways with the robo making Immortals, and I have to, in order to I have to have this expansion in order to do that, and this lets me warp in a lot more zealots. A couple of sentries for Guardian Shield and Force Field. So we're going to see the engagement pretty soon. Terran is not sieging up yet. He will pretty shortly. I use the stalkers to try and focus fire the Banshees if I can. And here we go, I'm focus firing the Banshees. I clean up the ground army pretty easily. And that was just really easy, and I'm going to win. Terran is expanding actually right now, which is terrible. I have 1 gate expanded. His expansion is going down at the 10-minute mark. So yeah, the game is essentially won at this point. Of course, we can see that Terran didn't really, engage very well. He didn't siege his tanks too quickly, and he's just sort of moved up my ramp. So that's an important thing that I do want to mention. In order for this defense to work, Zealots and Immortals and a few Sentries and a few Stalkers, in order for this defense to work, you've got to engage properly. And you're not relying on Terran making a mistake, but if Terran does make a mistake, you just crush it. You crush his army like nothing, like you saw in these two games. If he doesn't, you want to try and engage him as far away from your base as possible. So if you engage him like right here, and he sieges too early for you to really engage him, you just run away to back here. And he has to slowly leapfrog his tanks forward in order to not die. If Terran is allowed to just run right up here and then siege and then leapfrog toward your natural, you're in a lot worse trouble. And at this point, he actually just disconnected. I'm sure it wasn't intentional, but that's BattleNet for you. In any case, I think we can clearly see that the game is won. I'm getting charge. There's not anything else for him to do. So, the point is, you want to catch him unsieged, and it's not a matter of Terran making mistakes. It's a matter of you exploiting how his army works. Because, if he sieges up before your army engages him, like out here, then great, you just bought yourself more time for your 2-base economy to be producing units against his all-in, where he's pulled workers. And even if he hasn't, he's still on 1 base. It's fine for you if he slowly leapfrogs his tanks from the middle of the map all the way over here to your natural. You can just keep engaging and then backing off and chipping away at his army, and the Gateway army will reinforce much faster. I'm going for Templar Archives in charge once again. So, typically Terrans can't really do that, so what they want to do is just rush forward to here and then siege, or to here and siege. The worst thing you can do is to leave your army like back here and just wait for him to siege up on your natural. That's terrible. You've got to engage him in an open field before he sieges, which means you have to spot when he's leaving his base and just run out to meet him. And during the engagement, we'll actually back up a little bit. Let's see, where do we engage here? About 9 minutes, I'd say. Okay, so here's the engagement. And here's what we want to do during the engagement. We're attacking before he sieges. We are using the Immortal. We're going to target fire the tanks. We are going to force field behind everything so the Marines can't run away. And we're going to use our anti-air units to target fire the Banshees. And we're going to Guardian Shield. Guardian Shield is very important when fighting Zealots against Marines. So here we go. Pretty easy defense. Immortal hitting the tank. And no problem. So, that engagement is very important. If we don't do all those things, we don't Guardian Shield, the Immortal isn't firing on tanks, the Stalkers are firing on Marines or whatever. If we can't do all that, then the battle becomes much more difficult. And if we're attacking into him before, after he sieges up, we're going to lose a lot more units just getting close to his tanks. So, something else that's very important to keep in mind. So that is going to be it. This is the method to stop it when you know it's coming, but you still have to micro very well and engage at the right timing. So, if you do all that, you ought to win because Terran's expo is so much later than yours. And if you want to see, pros doing this, then definitely go back and check out my video on Liquid Huck defending this build. And go out there and don't die to this crap. Protosses, good luck.